Good evening and welcome to Environmental Coffee House. I am your host, Sandy Shellis, and it is good to see all of you. Hello, Kim. Thank you for moderating. And Looney, thank you for moderating. We have a packed show. I've got a lot to talk about. I'm going to start pretty much right away. I want to pull up my notes and we're going to talk about everything. Well, not everything, but we're going to talk about the new report on tipping points, which we all know about here in this channel. But, I feel like when I look at the news and I look at everything that's happening, I feel like we have reached the edge, and it's bigger than any one storm. Although we're going to talk about the storm, the typhoon in Alaska a little bit, but nobody else is. It's bigger than a storm. It's bigger than an election. It's bigger than everything. And that is a habitable climate and a livable earth. And the tipping points that we are just passing. It's shifting the earth. Our earth is shifting. It's faster. It's really faster than anybody wants to admit. Certainly not the people in the United States. Unfortunately. But I think we've passed this the critical threshold. I mean, it seems to me it might be unstoppable. Although there are a lot of people out there scientists that will say, we've got to do this, we've got to do that, and COP30 is coming up. We'll see. But it's not just melting ice or rising seas. It's about democracy in the United States itself. And it's about who decides what kind of world we're going to leave behind. Now, today is the first part. And Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern on this channel and on this space, I'm going to do the second part because I'm going to talk about the billionaire class. But today, we're going to talk about the tipping points. We're going to talk about what's in the news because it's all involved in the tipping points. And, around our beautiful, beautiful planet, people are fighting back. Indigenous defenders in different countries protecting forests, and youth movements that are flooding the streets, innovators reshaping economies built on fossil fuel greed. Is it enough? It's happening. But the question is not if the world is going to change. The question is, well, who's it going to change for? And this decade, this 2025 decade, this is like, I don't know, what kind of decisions? It feels like in 2025 we've made the decisions. And history. It's going to watch. It's watching to see what tipping point we choose. But yet, 20, 30, 40 years from now, what history will be seen and by who? Right? But once this world tips, there is no going back. It's the global tipping point. So what I want to talk about with you guys are the different thresholds that trigger. These are the environmental tipping points, and these trigger rapid, irreversible change. We have talked about these points for 9 years on this channel. We have probably done a show on every single one of these. Arctic sea ice collapse. I mean, how many shows did we do for years? Less ice, which means less sunlight reflected, amplifying the global warming. Greenland ice sheet melt. Enough meltwater could raise sea levels by over 20 feet. Of course, that's debatable depending on what melts, where it melts, how it thaws, the West Antarctic ice sheet disintegrating. That runaway melt, boy, That really could reshape coastlines all over the world. Could, will. The brakes are not on. Nope. And then there's the Amazon rainforest dieback. Deforestation and drought could turn the Amazon from a carbon sink to a carbon source. And I think we've already seen that happening. We've read some things on that. And then there's the good old AMOC, the Atlantic Meridional Overturning Circulation Slowdown. Jim and I did a show on that not long ago, and he did his brilliant breakdown of the statistics, which showed that there are changes happening in the current years. When he took it and broke it down, it was very interesting. If you haven't seen that show, please watch that show. It's the weakening of that ocean conveyor belt. It stabilizes the climate across Europe and North America. And then permafrost thaw. Jennifer's specialty, and we miss Jennifer. Releasing methane. It's that supercharged greenhouse gas, among others, accelerating warming in a deadly feedback loop. And then the boreal forest dieback, fire and drought, pushing northern forests past recovery. The Himalayan and Andean glacier loss, threatening water supplies for billions of people. And oxygen, ocean deoxygenation, warming waters. That's not funny. Warming waters losing oxygen, creating massive dead zones where life cannot survive. We've seen it all over. Not just the environmental. And then there's the political tipping zones, tipping points, political, social tipping points, which is really where we've been talking a lot. Antonio and I have been talking a lot. We have this lovely authoritarian backlash, which is versing our democratic renewal in the United States. But there's a lot of governments that have issues that are not democracies. Governments, United States, UK, cracking down on protest, but citizens, we want accountability. Fossil fuel phase-out decisions. Now, what do you think? Our nation's going to choose a managed transition or a chaotic collapse? What does it look like to you? To me, it's phasing, but I see the chaos coming because we're living in chaos in this country. In the United States, it's chaos every single day. Then there's the Green Industrial Revolution, which is, they call it that. But the momentum, it is building for so-called clean energy. When I say no energy is clean, there's not one bit of energy that's clean. Nothing. But electrification, like my home, which is I'm working on. And then circular economies. Climate migration pressure. Millions are displaced. And that's what's testing the borders. That's what is making the human rights frameworks. They're tipping. And in the United States, you see what we're doing. You see every day, if you look at X, because you're certainly not seeing half of the shit on the news, not in the mainstream media in the United States. No. Nope. Because of the media and the misinformation wars. See, these algorithms, they amplify denial, climate denial. They amplify all of the bullshit, quite frankly. And again, financial systems, they have to make a decision. Our financial systems, our central banks, our investors, are they going to want to decide if a carbon bubble will burst or be diffused? Election tipping points. Oh my goodness. Listen, in the United States, 2026 may not happen because this administration is authoritarian. They are doing everything possible that they could just say, okay, no elections, or they intimidate so many people by bringing the militaries into these cities. That's why they're doing this in the Democratic cities, in the blue cities. But are we going to have enough civic resistance and solidarity with each other, like on the 18th, like the No Kings coming up? Will this grassroots organizing turning the despair that we feel this despair, will it turn it into global coordination like Greta tried to do? And people make fun of her because of that. And they put her down because she was a Palestinian rights activist. Because right now, for her, that was right, clear and center, a genocide in front of her face. When you can't see all the time the climate crisis, and she saw nothing being done fast enough because COP 29, or the cops are a joke, but they're getting ready for COP 30. So we'll see what happens, right? So we're going to talk about what we can do to communicate. But we're going to do that after, because right now, what I really want to do is I want to talk about the tipping points. And I want to go into this. And I'm probably going to play a video first. Set it up. I think it'll be very important to do this. Once again, it's here. So let's watch this video. Digest what I said. Digest the tipping points. The environmental, the climate, the political, the geopolitical, because we are at a precipice, I feel. We're at that precipice. Let's watch this. Thank you, Potsdam, because the United States certainly isn't going to be able to do anything. Nope. We defunded everything. And now it's even worse because we have a government shutdown. And as the NOAA gets continually defunded, we won't hear about things like the storm in Alaska. So we're going to move on, and I'm going to pull up the couple of things I have for you to look at with me. Okay, so the first one is, now this is a while back, but it was Science Magazine, and it was talking about exceeding 1.5 C global warming could trigger multiple clipping. We're clipping multiple climate tipping points. Climate tipping points are conditions beyond which changes in a part of the climate system become self-perpetuating. These changes may lead to abrupt, irreversible, and dangerous impacts with serious implications for humanity. We have only been screaming about this on this channel for 9 years. People don't talk about it much anymore because either they know and they don't care, or they don't know and they're in denial, or they are lied to by all these different media outlets, or a president of the United States calls it a scam and a hoax. Armstrong, McKay, and all present an updated assessment. Now, this was from 2022 of the most important climate tipping elements and their potential tipping points, including their temperature, thresholds, timescales, and impacts. Their analysis indicates that even global warming of 1°C, a threshold we've already passed, puts us at risk by triggering some more tipping points. This finding provides a compelling reason to limit it. Okay, well, since 2022, have we done much? No. And the orange turd won the election, so I feel like, he put the near-term human extinction people in charge of the Department of Energy, and Chris Wright and Lee Zeldin in the EPA. Two very important organizations within our government that are fucked, basically. So, climate tipping points, they're a source of growing scientific policy and public concern. And I'm not going to go through this one, but just suffice it to say, this was a good article, and we're going to jump over to Sustainability Times. Sustainability Times. They warned us it was speeding up. Earth's climate engine is shifting so fast. Scientists fear glacier storms and seasons may never return. In a world increasingly dominated by unpredictable weather patterns, scientists warn that the accelerating pace of climate change is reshaping ecosystems and human livelihoods at an alarming rate. But we won't even need humans because we're going to have robots, right? Peter Thiel, right? Elon Musk. Just keep having those babies. So in a nutshell, scientists warn about the accelerating pace of climate change reshaping ecosystems. Glaciers in North America and Europe have lost significant ice volume since 2020. Atmospheric rivers are causing record precip, but also threaten floods and landslides. The Hadley cell is expanding, causing shifts in climate zones and the weather patterns. We must face it. We must face it. Across North America and Europe, scientists are increasingly alarmed, always alarmed, by the rapid pace of glacial ice loss. And the climate change deniers of the lovely Heartland Institute and all of those their ilk, they call us alarmists because we follow the science and talk about it. Because I do this, I could get a knock on my door. So, a recent study published in Geophysical Research Letters highlights that glaciers in the United States and Canada have lost approximately 12% of their ice volume since 2020. Lovely. Switzerland's glaciers have experienced an even greater decline, losing 13%. This is a tipping point. The rate of loss is nearly double that of the previous decade, signaling an accelerated trend that poses significant implications for water resources and ecosystems. Society needs to be asking, what are the implications of ice loss going forward? We need to start preparing for a time when glaciers are gone for Western Canada and the United States. You think? The United States is waiting for the Epstein files. The United States is waiting for biology and physiology to take its course. But what is the Hadley cell? It is one of the Earth's key climate drivers, and it's expanding and migrating towards the poles. The shifting climate zone has tangible impacts, altering weather patterns and ecosystems. The once abstract, it was very abstract, concept of the Hadley cell is becoming increasingly relevant as it influences various aspects of the climate system, from precip to temperature extremes. Yep. Drought and agriculture, health, heat and health, floods and storms. We've talked about these things ad nauseum. But this is what we're seeing. We're still in a drought. We've had like 3 days of rain in the whole season. But the choice is clear: prepare for tomorrow's storms or be swept away from them, or by them, from them. Freudian slip. Nobody's being swept away from anything. Despite daunting challenges, scientific advances offer a little hope. Little hope? Researchers are enhancing observation and prediction capabilities, except in the United States. Fiber optic cables on the seafloor now detect processes that accelerate ice melting. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Association, utilizing its array of satellites forever how long? Aircraft for how long is that? And radars, the government shut down. We're shit out of luck there. Provides early warnings of heavy rainfall, helping communities to better prepare. Okay, Brian. He thinks that it's really going to happen, huh? I don't know, maybe I'm in a real doomer mood. I just don't see so many positives. The effects of the changing climate are not confined to any single region. They have global ramifications that necessitate international cooperation and local adaptation strategies. Do you think in Gaza these people need to adapt to climate change when they've been bombed to smithereens and have no place to live because they're going back to what? No place to live. You think that these leaders, these people from Qatar and Egypt and, Netanyahu and Orange Turd, you really think they care about any of this other than rebuilding in their vision of the Riviera of the Gaza? But as evidence of climate change becomes more apparent, individuals and communities are urged to take action. How is that? Well, we'll figure that out. We talk about it. We'll figure it out. But now to the pièce de résistance, the Earth system tipping points risks. And the Earth system tipping points pose profound risks to national security, food security, health, and well-being. I downloaded the PDF, but I really can't. It's very small to see it if I pull it up on the screen for you guys. And so I'm going to just talk about the tipping points. They create diverse and interconnected risks that are different. Different to other climate impacts, often characterized by irreversibility, deep uncertainty, and potential for cascading failures across natural and human systems. 12 of them. So I did download this. I will have all the links, as I always do in the show notes, whether or not anybody takes advantage. That's how I'm trained. You can't do a show without putting your references in. Most people don't. I do. So let's look at the first one. And that's the path humanity takes now matters enormously. What do you think out there? What do you think? I'm not going to play these, but I want you to go through this. I really do. They have a risk dashboard, and there's a lot of stuff in this. I mean, it would take me a long time to go through this whole report, but it's really interactive and really nice. And the planetary solvency risk position and trajectory. There has been a significant increase in 2025 risk position, with overall position now outside risk appetite. Global climate impacts, severe. Nature impacts anticipated, severe. Imminently. Increasing societal fragmentation with active conflicts, heightened geopolitical tension, and severe stresses on vulnerable states. Economic losses and mortality still, limited. It's because we have 500 billionaires. And everybody else is broke. Yeah. Risk trajectory pushes all risks further out of appetite soon, with increased breaches of risk tolerances. That's likely. Immediate policy action is required. to mitigate risks of catastrophic level or greater impacts this century and possibly well before 2050. Cascading and interconnecting nature of risks requires systemic approach and solution. So we've got quite a bit here. Extreme, catastrophic, decimation, severe, and limited. And it's a risk trajectory. And they have the climate, nature, society, and economy. And 2025, we're not there yet, but boy, we're getting close. We are getting close. Risk position, amber, impact severe 2024 with globally increased billions of dollar loss events and 10,000 plus mortality events. And now we're going to be, greater than 1.5. So we're going to overshoot Paris. We have overshot Paris. And Paris, what did it mean? I mean, it's not good to have pulled out for the United States. But there was no teeth. There's no monitoring because, you need an eco-fascist. You really need an eco-fascist. You need someone who's going to be in charge and that is going to whip the populations in place with eco-fascism. Honestly, I mean, it sounds crazy, but how else are people going to change when the shit really hits the fan and collapses here? I don't know. Certainly isn't the way it is now. I'm not advocating for this or that. I'm just saying it seems like there's so much garbage going on. We know that the orange turd is certainly not the leader we need in these times worldwide at all. At all. So, you could look at this and say, well, this is really the whole show. But it's not. But warming has accelerated. GHGs, emissions, breaking records, more warming, climate impacts increasingly severe, fire, flood, heat, drought, and nature continuing to be degraded. And the energy transition, it's accelerating. Well, it's supported by rapid scaling of transition finance. China, there's other countries doing it. The United States was doing it. The United States has cut all of the money from the climate goals. The Department of Energy is not allowed. You are not using the words climate change or emissions, even if it wasn't going to happen. But we have $1 trillion investment in fossil fuels and an all-time record for coal. Lovely, isn't it? And the GDP requires energy, implying more fossil fuel use if renewables are absent. Energy security and geopolitical implications of transition is executed. Risk and uncertainty. Tipping point risk increases over 1.5, and several tipping points are now triggered. Climate sensitivity. The Earth may be much more sensitive to greenhouse gases than we think. Additional factors driving accelerated warming, aerosol cooling, and loss of albedo. Climate models underestimate risk. Miss nonlinear risk impacts and cascading risks. You really should get into this report. I mean, it would be, for me to do a proper show on this, it would be like 3 hours to really go through everything. But the key message, we're like, to almost the we are so fucked land. I mean, seriously. But I don't give up. I can't give up. So we need new risk assessment approaches for the tipping points. And the cryosphere tipping points may already have been crossed. I mean, where are we? This is a serious report. These are serious scientists. These are not joking people. They have high confidence that the ice sheets from Greenland to West Antarctica have warming tipping points leading to irreversible collapse, locking in long-term multi-meter sea level rise, and have been at risk since at least 1 C of global warming. Listen, We've talked about this. It's scary as shit. And it's the scary shit nobody really wants to talk about because the political aspects of what's happening right now all seem to be they are the precipice, they are the tipping point of collapse. Democracy in the United States is collapsing. The 240 or whatever year, 50-year experiment is over. The fascists and the authoritarians are going to take us down. They are taking us down. They're squelching free speech and protest. They don't want to hear this. They don't want to hear the science. They want to go to their bunkers because they know. While Arctic summer sea ice is unlikely to reach tipping points, Antarctic sea ice may have a tipping point that could already be underway. And that's a whole big thing on X. All the deniers on X, oh, but Antarctica, it got ice. They don't understand anything about it. They understand nothing about volume, thickness, extent. They don't understand anything. They just say one little stupid article. Oh, guess what? Then it's good. We're all good. We're all good. We're all fucking good. I'm sorry. When you read as much as I do, and then you see as much as I do, how can you be sitting here? I cannot sit here and go, zippity doo dah, things are great, because they're not. I'm trying. Biosphere tipping points are approaching faster than we thought. Faster than we thought. Faster than previously expected. 9 years ago, 8 years ago, 6 years ago, and then when Jennifer and I were doing our shows, we would talk about this and people would say, yeah, okay. It's pretty serious. The Guy McPherson camp, they know. I don't want to say 2026. I never prognosticate. He knows. He's been saying it and ruined his career over it. Warm water coral reefs have experienced the worst bleaching, this is what's in the news, event on record over 23 to 25, and the central estimate of their thermal tipping point of 1.2 C global warming has crossed. It has crossed. And we just keep kicking the can down the proverbial road towards near-term human extinction. But we are going to talk about what we can do. And then the Amazon rainforest. 2 years of El Nino. Drought. Bad. And the combined effects of deforestation and climate change put it at risk. Below 2C. Where they used to say, well, the Amazon, it might be okay. It might be okay. This report is devastating. But there's always hope, they say. There's always hope. Ocean and atmosphere circulation are already at risk of tipping points. We don't have to talk much about AMOC. Just go watch Jim's show with me. It's a few weeks ago. It's very relevant. It's there. I'll put the link in the show notes. I haven't made any clips, but I actually need to make a clip because what he came up with I thought was brilliant. And if you didn't see it, I think I'll have to work on it. Making a clip of that part of the show. Absolutely. Yep. The Southern Ocean, dense shelf water formation may be declining and could reach a tipping point. Jeez. Sometimes it's hard to breathe. Sometimes it's just, and we all feel this way, and that's why we're here. All 42 that I see in the chat. 42 people, 42 quality people. I should have 442, but I'm not saying anything about cankles, McTaco tits. I mean, I'm talking about the devastation that's happening on our planet. And this is what most people do. What? It's hard. It's very difficult. I don't know. I didn't set anything up. Let's look at these. I didn't set anything up I love the permafrost, and I loved our permafrost shows, and it's really, really happening. Overshooting 1.5 increases the risk of crossing multiple tipping points. Here we are. In fact, Elliot Jackson, Ed Jackson. Boy, I'm doing great. Elliot Jacobson back over 1.5 again and on the way up. Coral has tipped. AMOC, Amazon, boreal forest, Antarctica, Greenland, permafrost are tipping. The climate 8 ball says not to be. This is the 2 meter surface temperature anomalies, 1940. But as you always see, anomaly in the degrees Celsius, and you always see the red line is going up. And then he did talk about this yesterday. The moment of doom, end of coral. He's on Blue Sky also. I just happened to pull him up here today. Yep, we're rapidly approaching those multiple Earth system tipping points that could transform our world. That is transforming our world with devastating consequences. And this was CNN. Okay, let's go back. And we'll go back because I'm already getting. I want to stay to an hour. It's not easy. I mean, I could go on and talk about this because this is my home. My home is talking about climate and environmental issues. I do get into the political issues because the political issues are so overwhelming and so unbelievable and so psychopathological, and you want to examine why, and then you can't always figure it out. Peak warming and time above 1.5 must be minimized to limit tipping risks. How are we doing that? We're losing time. Other countries are doing it. The thing we can do is localize. Local. Like preparing. Like the article in Sustainability Times about preparing for the mess that's ahead. Warming feedbacks and other anthropogenic stressors increase tipping risks. Most tipping systems are expected to amplify global warming if tipped, making it more difficult to return to lower global warming levels in an overshoot period. No going back. Everybody having babies today, people don't want to think about 40 and 50 years from now what life will be like for children that are born now. Additional pressures such as other anthropogenic stressors, interacting tipping systems, and destabilizing Earth system feedbacks can amplify tipping risk further. This is why people are in denial. This is why it's so much easier for denialists to get through to the rank and file on these social media platforms, because this is overwhelming material. And it is unbelievable. But it's not. Are we going to decrease direct anthropogenic stressors? Can we? Halt the Amazon. You thought Lula was going to do that, didn't you? You thought Lula was going to do it. He's not doing it. Nope. Because when the bottom line is money, and you got mouths to feed and cities to build, and populations that are growing, nope. Lula wasn't doing it either. Bolsonaro, what's the difference? Earth system tipping points have huge impacts that demand further research. Not in the United States. I am so sorry I'm so negative. It's very difficult not to be right now. There's an urgent need for dedicated research on the impacts of crossing Earth system tipping. Potsdam is going to be doing it. Exeter is going to be doing it. Universities in China are going to be doing it. Canada. I'm hoping McMaster and all the universities in Canada that Canada has the opportunity to become a hub for the global research. It could be. I'd like to see it because we're circling the drain. We provide an initial analysis of these impacts, relying heavily on inferences from general climate impact literature. Our assessment suggests that crossing Earth system tipping points will cause profound risks across 9 critical domains, including food security, energy infrastructure, economic stability, and social cohesion, affecting billions. And you know who's clapping that on, right? Who's clapping the billions? We talk about him. Antonio pegs him real well. A little Nazi here in the United States, Stephen Miller. Isn't it something how insignificant little pieces of shit can actually affect the globe so dramatically through a bankrupt felon pedo, which he is? It just seems to go with collapse. Seems like the end of this history is just apropos for all of the things that have happened over 250 years. All regions and billions of people face major impacts from Earth's system tipping points. So the critical tipping point risk exists for small islands in East Asia from ice sheet loss, for South Asia, Southeast Asia, and Central America. From monsoon disruption, we've seen this. For West Africa, from AMOC collapse and monsoon disruption, and for North Asia, from permafrost thaw and boreal forest tipping. Most tipping point risks exist for Northeast America from AMOC collapse and ice sheet loss, for Northwest Europe from AMOC collapse, and for the Amazon region from rainforest dieback. The greatest population is ultimately at risk from monsoon disruption, followed by ice sheet loss, AMOC collapse, and the degradation of warm water coral reefs, which that's all in the news. That's all in the news. And that's a good thing that people can see that in the news. It's been in every outlet. It is a story, but people will blink and forget it tomorrow. And then, of course, they'll bring up, but the Bikini Atolls, how come they're doing so well after all that radiation? Well, gee, how come? It's an anomaly, isn't it? And scientists are studying it. So, regional vulnerabilities to Earth system tipping points reveal extreme inequality. The whole world is becoming more and more fractured between 500 billionaires and the rest of us. And I always do use the term that we are not left and right, which is what they want. Like Antonio says, are we in a civil war already? But it's really them, the oligarchs with the money all over the world, and they have their boot on our neck. We are choked. And that's what we're doing to the planet. Developed regions primarily face infrastructure and economic challenges. Yeah, all the tornadoes this year that everybody's forgotten about in the Midwest that were really not in character. The most extreme gaps in regional preparedness for tipping point risks are in small island developing states, West Africa, Central America, and the Amazon basin. So instead of just living, these people have to try to prepare for devastation. They have to live as if everything they have will be devastated, because it will be. And you think that the average MAGA even knows where any of these places are? Matthew Todd. I made a little clip. I love Matthew Todd. I'm going to ask him to be my guest. Coral ecosystems, on which about 1 billion people depend for food and livelihood, are now tipping into an irreversible decline. Very few media outlets are reporting the magnitude and speed of climate collapse. And it is. Soon enough, media owners, editors, and individual journalists, as well as politicians and lobbyists, are going to have to justify why they did not adequately report this. And I expect we'll move towards criminal prosecutions demanded by the public, especially those of those taking cash from the fossil fuel industry to lie about or suppress the reality. End of the world as we know it. Damning new report says Earth has reached its first climate tipping point. You think that'll happen? Do you think that people, at least in the United States, I've seen other countries, but do you think that people will get off the goddamn couch and get off social media and understand what's happening? I guess when they're flooded or burned out, that happens. People that have already experienced this know. They already know. And I suppose it'll just be exacerbating. I know Arn Menconi. I used to work with him, actually. I was just rewatching The Big Short and thinking about how the renowned historian Gore Vidal called us the United States of America in the 70s. I'm in the southernmost island of Indonesia now, knowing this will be a disaster in the next 20 to 50 years if we're lucky. He was a political activist during the Bernie days, and we actually worked together on Real Progressives, and I met him a couple of times. And then he did go to Standing Rock with my friend Kia. Yeah, those were the days. Yep, the water is beginning to boil, and the frog in the pot remains clueless. I think that kind of says it, huh? It does. All right. And we saw Elliot. So, as we saw Elliot talking about this last August saw a record low for average August Arctic sea ice thickness, the first time below 1 meter, with data going back to 79. Still waiting for September data. Will we see a new all-time record low? Going down. I need Aerosmith. Going down. Yeah. Well, thank you, Elliot. And now I am taking us back to the big screen. Yeah. All right. I'm taking us back to the big screen. But not to that video. We're going to juxtaposition. We're going to move over a little bit. But first, before we move over a little bit, we can talk a little bit about what do you do? You know, what do you do? Well, we've talked about local action, right? We've talked about things. Well, communication, which is what I'm doing. You can do it. Communicate. How do we do it? How do we tell other people so that they're not frightened, pissed off, automatically running to denial, and they understand something's changing? I know the farmers around here do. Okay, so when you're talking to somebody, speak human, speak like I speak. Speak not with all the jargon because people's eyes glaze over. We know what anthropogenic climate forcing is. But we got to say, okay, I'll just say, if I'm talking to my first ex-husband, let's say, I would say, our pollution's heating the planet. It's just happening. We're polluting the planet faster than we can adapt, faster than we can make it. Those are the kinds of things you could say. Because nobody is going to look at you and take you seriously if you say anthropogenic climate forcing, unless you're watching Climate Chat on Sunday or looking at any of the other number of climate channels or doomer channels or the climate crisis space on Twitter, X, on Saturdays. And then, when you're talking to somebody, try to connect the dots and tell them the extreme weather, and food and insurance and all these things I think about every day. I think about it, weather. I always think about what's going to happen outside. We're in a drought. I thought about it. I've got water. I can still water what I've got out there. Food prices. Well, I know I'm going to be losing weight because I sure shit can't even afford. I cannot afford what I need. Insurance hikes. Yep, that's happening. And it's happening to probably everybody that's in the United States that's sitting in my chat. And then talk about migration and why, migration because of these things. And don't put it in a way. Hey, hang on a second. I want to get the comments up because I see you guys are starting to like this. And John, yeah, okay, here we go. I can't tell if someone's going to get triggered by what I have to say, so I'm not going to worry about it. Well, it depends on who you're talking about, but if you got an audience and you can get somebody to listen to you, do it. Do it. Use stories. We're not going to be sitting there giving statistical stuff. We don't need to look like scientists. We just need to have the science kind of be emotional, And I think if there's certain people I think of when I'm talking to my audience about this, not you guys on this platform, but if somebody did come into this platform and I really wanted to talk about it, I would do this. Talk about how I'm talking about it. You normalize the talk. So I've done this. You try to bring it into the everyday conversation. So it's been droughted here. We're dry. It's in everyday conversation. Why are we dry? It's not normal. It's abnormal. Everybody's noticing it. And then you can lead into how it's interesting how it's flooding in so many other places in the world. Look what's happening down south. We're in a drought. They're having storms on the coast, but Alaska just had a typhoon that just destroyed so much up there. People don't know, but you normalize it, and and I try to do this, and I have done this, and I've made people understand it's real. And that's what we have to do. We have to make it real. But our media is not doing this. And Matthew Todd is right. The media is not doing this. This type of discussion should be happening on every single show. Every news show should have something about. And if they did talk about the coral reefs, they could talk about how they could make this an everyday thing. How can you have a segment every day on this, especially with the orange turd in charge and the billionaires who own the media? They don't want to talk about this. So we've got to. And if you're talking to somebody and they're like really, really, really quiet, they don't say anything, maybe they're just complicit and they're already brainwashed into the fact that the fossil fuel industry and all the stuff they see online, like the I Love CO2 campaign, is lying to them and they're falling for it. Well, so those fossil fuel lobbyists, they win. We don't want that, right? Now, you can politicize some of this stuff without polarizing, I think. You can say, okay, like I do, call out that denial and say, look, these people are corrupt. They're cowards because they're not facing what's happening head on. And then talk about what's happening head on in terms of, remember when your cousin lost everything in North Carolina, or my cousin or somebody's cousin? Shared values. What are the shared values that we have with someone who doesn't understand safety, health, jobs, justice, farms here? What are those shared values? What would I talk to my farmer neighbor about this drought, which I already have, how to deal with it, that these things could happen, and that when it rains, it's never just a rainy day, it's torrential rains. But we don't have to, so we can bring politics up, but I just don't want to make it I don't know. I want it to be like it's not political, actually. And it's not just a demon rat, Democrat, left wing. It's not. So how do we do it? This is big thing here. Now, amplify the people that tell the truth. I'm thinking about this. All these scientists, Alex Hale is in the audience. He does this. He amplifies and he protects the truth tellers, no matter who. The verified content, it always has to be verified content from scientists, journalists, indigenous leaders, and youth activists. They have to be protected at all costs. Alex does it. And then push back on the bullshit. Push back on the disinformation. But it's easy to argue with trolls and bots. And I don't do that. Not very often. And when I did it, I deactivated X, Twitter, because I realized I was getting sucked into the vortex of bullshit and vortex of bots. And I said, nope, I'm done. But I came back on and I'm not doing it. It's like a detox thing. I'm on there because you can see things and because of Climate Crisis Club. All right, there you go. So we got to protect those people. And how about local people that do this? Now, I'm doing this online, but there are local activists here, and they are climate communicators. And I think there's someone in our audience. I think if she was here, I thought Chanel was here earlier. Maybe she wasn't. But, she's a climate communicator, also a LGBTQ communicator. And she's out there all the time, this gal. I met her at the first No Kings. She's amazing and real and intelligent. So I think what she does and what I try to do is take these big issues, these global issues, and make them match what's going on in your neighborhood. Because that's the only way I think people are going to get it, what affects them. Because that's the society we live in. Most people, this is what allowed the orange turd to get elected, was that most people went with that gut, nasty stuff that voted for him. It was like that person gave permission to white people, really, and even some Hispanics that went for the Latinos for Trump, and some black people got bamboozled. But he gave people permission to hate and be racist and ugly, and a lot of it came out. It's very sad. So well, how can we frame this crisis? Because it's a crisis. We could frame it as our choice to understand. See, if you make people think they can't do anything, which I'll never do, they feel powerless, they'll just shut down. They won't talk to you about it. But if we talk about how are we going to deal with this drought, how are you going to save water, how are we going to plan for the future, I talk about the batteries I have. And by the way, I got a really beautiful gift from someone. I got a 3,600 watt Fosse bought solar battery that will run lots of shit at my house in backup. It is amazing gift. I'm floored, and thank you. I think the person doesn't want me to say their name, but my gratitude is unreal because my house is becoming, I could never do that, put it that way. We lose power here a lot, but thank you. I have to say that was like huge. And it's downstairs. And I do like solar stuff. And I've told you this before. So we say, okay, so we're not going to make people feel powerless, but we could talk about these tipping points and, but there's the tipping points as I talked about in the beginning, social and environmental tipping points. This is what it all brought my mind to. But we don't want to do that. And what I do. I talk about these batteries and the solar panels as, they are nice and they are cheap and they don't stink. That's a big thing I always talk about. I say, it doesn't stink. But Sandy, you have a wood stove. Okay, that's my fossil fuel. And it's from my friend's, my neighbor's farm. The wood comes locally and he's been doing it 50 years, knows how to regenerate and do everything on his place. It was a lot of research to get that stove with the highest. It's really a very high efficiency stove. You remember last year when I told you I changed the combustor? I did it myself because the other one crumbled. And I did the research and you could do a combustor in metal. So it was pretty cool. Okay. So, all right. Getting back to my other frame of thought here. What do we want to be part of? Do we want to be part of collapse or do we want to be part of recovery? Not for the long term big picture because nobody knows, but recovery means being a first responder locally, understanding what your responsibilities are, respecting the burn ban, just things like that, I think. And even though I talk about the collapse, and that's a big thing that we do talk about, I also like the fact that I feel like in my life, somewhat, not all the time, I'm a bit of a hypocrite on many things, but that I really do like these opportunities to have something that doesn't stink. I don't have to have the propane guy come back up his truck to fill my tanks. If I have backup solar and if I run out of, I won't run out of wood. Not this year anyway. So another thing people can do is, and this is like, calling your representative for what it's worth. They get annoyed or they don't, but they hear it. They know it. And nobody's giving town halls, so I guess you can't do that. But like I said, I have plans to go to the town. I haven't done this yet. It's been a crazy few months. But to go and talk about the data centers and educate my town, my town about data centers and not having one come here. And I did a whole show on that. So I guess that's public pressure. And a lot of people around here are doing a lot of this letters and calls and little rallies and coordinated campaigns. Around here, it's political mostly. But it used to be environmental. And it was for the cheese plant that just got fined $500,000. I mean, no, yeah, $500,000. Around here, that's a lot. All right. So again, like I just talked about, I'm modeling a little bit of change, not a lot. And what we all have to do though is don't feel guilty because you can't do something, because that whole carbon footprint thing, and we all learned, even though I like, the carbon footprint idea, I would love to see the carbon footprint of the US military cut in half at least, but that's, how likely is that to happen? But just don't feel guilty because a lot of us can't afford the things. I could never have afforded the battery that came to me as a gift from an amazing person. But, like, it's not like, okay, we're doomed if you, unless you recycle. I mean, that's like the stupid message, it's not. It's the message is we win if we work together. We win if we think about all of this. And excuse me, I've got the fan on. It's warm in my house. I have the wood stove on and I'm getting itchy. Oh, I need a break. Okay. So, what is my last thought that I wrote down? Hang on. If I gotta go get a tissue, I swear to God, I mean, I have to take a break like I do during Left Past Dead because, hang on, I'm gonna play a video we're going to move on, and then I'm going to go to my last one. I'm going to play a video because I need to get up for a second, and I thought I would try to make it an hour, and obviously I can't make it an hour. So I have one. I'm going to play this video, and this video is, it actually is representative of collapse, but it was a joke. Supposedly it was a joke. Okay, somebody did this, and then the orange turd put it up, and it is like what I think is actually going to happen. Well, this is what's happening. This is what's happening in the United States. Right out people's front lawns. This is what's happening. What would we do to talk to those people? They're just trying to not get beat up by ice. The climate crisis is the farthest thing from their mind. The farthest thing from their mind, because we are living in a nightmare. Can you imagine looking out your front window and seeing this happening? Right outside. Yep. This isn't Illinois. This is a suburb. This is where everybody lives. This is every neighborhood. Yep. They're not here yet. They might go to Buffalo. Dawn, my daughter said she's seen them in Buffalo. Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. I've got another one. Okay. Hang on. Hang on. This is the one. This is the one I want to play before I come back, because this is what I think is going to happen with this other current event.
Donald's coming to set you free, bringing the light for all to see. No more tunnels, no more fear. Trump Gaza is finally here. Trump Gaza shining bright, golden future, a brand new life. Feast and dance, the deal is done. Trump Gaza, number one. Trump Gaza shining bright, golden future, a brand new life. Feast and dance, the deal is done. Trump Gaza, number one.
We have an opportunity to do something that could be phenomenal. And I don't want to be cute. I don't want to be a wise guy, but the Riviera of the Middle East, this could be something.
What an
that could
asshole.
This could be so magnificent.
What a jerk. Right? Oh my God. So I don't think, I think that's where they still are, quite frankly. But let me get my notes back up wherever they are. Okay, here's my notes. All right, let's finish that. I'm sorry, but I had to get a tissue and I got a tissue. All right. So we were basically, the last thing is, when you look at the people I played in that, okay? Look at the people that were just in a car, get pulled over by ICE, by what's happening in this country, and think about, how can you talk about the climate crisis with them? How can you talk about the climate crisis with them and the environmental crisis when they're just worried about their life? We've got a huge job ahead of us, those of us that communicate. So what do we do with their fear? You know, how do we give people purpose when we communicate what's going on? When we try to tell people about tipping points, when they read something about the coral and then it just goes in one ear or out the other, or one eye, or in the brain, and leaves. How do people feel the weight of this crisis when their everyday life right now all over the United States and other countries in the world? Egypt, who the orange turd is so friendly with, the leader, Egypt, they put people in jail for any kind of dissent. That's why this guy likes them. So can we take, can we take the weight of these crises and help people understand this one? I mean, there's rage, there's grief, and well, some hope. Can it coexist? I don't know. I mean, do people still care about the world? I think so. I think so. The last thing I really wanted to talk about, I mean, there's so many things I want to talk about. I just wanted to mention what happened in Alaska, Typhoon Halong, very quickly. It was pretty vicious, and thankfully only one person died. It could have been worse. 2 others are missing, but 1,400 people have been displaced. And it was severe flooding, storm surges, dozens of homes, structures floating. I mean, it's in Quigillicook and Kipnuk, but these are important places, and they have a big indigenous population. Water levels in Kipnuk, they rose to 14.5 feet, which is 2 feet above normal high tide, and that was far exceeding previous records. And community airports and roads, little airports, all these planes, they fly to these people on these small little airports, and they're damaged, so they've cut the remote villages off. Where's the orange turd? And power and water systems, fuel depots, that's, fuel is where they get their money, and they're affected over there. So this'll be one to watch. It'll be one to watch. I didn't have any graphics or any videos to pull up on that one, but I had just wanted to mention it because it was on my mind, and I thought it was something that I had to mention. What happened there? Because it's in the United States. We live in the United States, and I don't know what the response has been federally. The government's closed down. They're defunding FEMA. What's the response? I've seen what happened. What's the response? Local people working together. That's what the response is. Okay, let's see here. Are people interested in saving for retirement? Yes, of course. Business as usual is still going on. I'm not telling anybody what not to do or not to do that. No, that's business as usual is still going on. And if they do that, then maybe those investments can be in social choice accounts like I had when I had a retirement, and I chose to put money in a social choice account, which did not invest in the fossil fuel industry, which was good. Okay, I have no super chats to read, but that's fine because a lot of people can't afford it, and you are all so generous. But I do have comments. Hello, Keith. I still say one of the best things you can do is get used to as little electricity as possible. If you want some renewables, fine, but try to do it without it. Right. TV, computer. This room probably uses, doing these shows, more lights or computers, but I'm not in here that much. But I understand. Absolutely. Yeah. I hear you. It's not easy to accept it, but there's so many challenges to stand up to. I mean, all the challenges I just read you. That's not even the list I put together of current events in the news in one day around the world. That's another show. That would be Last Week in Collapse. And I did put it together. Okay, let's see. Me? It's not I lost it. Oh, Kim. Okay. Yeah, well, we spent it. I mean, life goes on. I always lived like there was no tomorrow, and obviously it looks like there might be no tomorrow. Oh my God, that's terrible. Okay. All right, let's see here. Somebody has a flush. Da-da-da. Where was that? Flush billionaires. Are we going to flush the billionaires? Yeah, we'll flush the billionaires. Someday I'll get it together and put the video up again. Bye-bye. right down the tube. Watch the billionaires. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, yeah, baby. Yes, you do. Absolutely. Trust is a big thing. Trust is huge. I speak to people and I've established that trust with many people I interact with. It's great, and I can talk about things. So I agree with that. Trust is extremely important. We must call to their inner hero, presented as heroic struggle for all humanity. Yeah, actually, their inner hero. And because where I live is very religious, maybe too, it's called to that spiritual, religious thing that this is what God wants. This is what God wants. God wants us to get together on this. Okay, I just want to be ready and know what to do if shit's hitting the fan near me. Then do the best I can, no more, no less. Exactly. I think that that says a lot of it for a lot of us, especially those of us that are older. You know, I'm an old woman and older woman, and I get scared. I've been watching these videos on and off. They pop in, I don't know why, about homeless people my age that are homeless because of whatever is happening. And I don't want that to be me. It's pretty scary to have to think that, hey, it could happen to anyone. Homelessness is a huge problem in this country, along with everything else. And investing in your children's education means you care about the future. We have to continue caring about it, of course. Jeffrey, you have to. You can't give up. All kinds of fights. We don't have a crystal ball. I say it all the time. Ba, 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 ba. Floosh! All right, guys. Yes, it is. That's right. It is. Those of us that are older, and if you see those things, you know what, it does happen. This in this country, the United States, is all I can talk from because I live here, but it is just, it's overwhelming. Is it overpopulation that happened? Why is it happening? Why is it happening? The world will be fine with no humans. In time, megafauna will return. Yeah, that's a good way to end. Yep. Now, what are you saying? Who the bloody hell is God, you woke moralist? No, we must speak the language of those around us. Yep. All right, guys. I will be here Thursday, 5 o'clock, and I'm going to do my show. I'm going to continue, but I'm going to do the billionaire list. We're going to talk about the billionaires, and we're going to talk about why they are responsible for where we are now. I mean, it should be a pretty good one, and I'm trying to pull everything together and do some canning and cleaning and take care of 7 cats and all the things that I do in life that all of you probably do too. Because I happen to know Poppy has a homestead, and she's just as busy. Yep. And where did you say it? We're just a blip in time. Do the best we can in this blip of time. Yeah, baby. All right. I will see you on Thursday.